What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the True Mets Talk podcast. It's your boy CP, and we are here talking Mets versus Brewers pregame show with a little bit of a unique twist. I am here in Wisconsin. I'll be at the game live tonight in Milwaukee with a good buddy of mine that is going to be joining the show right here. We're going to the game together. And it's a tale of two tapes with these two teams. One slumping team versus the hottest team in baseball. How is this going to go? We're here to talk X's and O's. Before we fully get into it and introduce the guest for a little bit of a Brewers perspective and background on this upcoming series, make sure to smash those thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and comment your thoughts and opinions down below about your expectations, Mets fans, for this series. Do the Mets turn it around, or are the slumping ways going to continue? And without further ado, let us introduce our guest, Logan. How are you doing?
Hey, Mets fans, how's it going? Chris, thanks for having me today. Very excited for hopefully a great game. Hopefully not for Mets fans, but for Brewers fans, maybe. This winning streak continues, hoping to extend it almost, I think it's 9 games now, Chris.
Yeah.
Or no, 6 games. I just want to point that out that we have gone on one of the craziest away streaks. Coming back home, in 6 games, we recorded 50 runs, no errors. Not too shabby for the Brew Crew. We're gonna see what happens at home this in this homestand, but the Mets have a tall task ahead of them.
As I mentioned, it's a tale of two tapes right now, not only record-wise and not only winning streak-wise, but as you mentioned, with the lack of errors and the fundamentals for the Brewers defense, it's been a complete 180 for the New York Mets. They've lost a handful of games, especially as of late, as they've lost 8 of their last 9 games thanks to some poor defense in the field. And what is a team that is usually, especially earlier on this season, based on fundamentals defensively, that has something, it's been something that's eluded them 100%. Now, we'll talk about tonight's game because, again, we are both going to the game tonight. We're here in Milwaukee. I appreciate you bringing me to the friendly confines of whatever the park is named now. I know it's not Miller Park. What is it now?
It's AmFam. We'll take it.
Okay.
We'll take it, but it's always Miller Park. Always
Absolutely.
has been, always will be.
You ask any Brewers fan, it's still always Miller Park. They'll always trip up on that. So I mean, it's a beautiful stadium. I've been here before. We went to a game here together before. It was actually the last series between these two teams in the regular season when the Brewers won the series, and then of course our Mets got the best of the Brewers in the wild card series. We won't talk about that too much, but the last time the Mets were here, clearly a guy that's no longer in your organization that was traded away this offseason gave up a huge home run to Pete Alonso, who's actually only 1 home run shy of tying the Mets franchise record for all-time home runs behind Darryl Strawberry. So that is something that we are watching out for as Mets as well, whether it comes on the road or at home when the Mets get back home. But let's talk about this series, especially this game that we're going to be attending tonight, because it's such an interesting – we don't have lineups, by the way, at the time of this recording, so we do apologize about that. We're going to be heading to the stadium here in just a couple of hours, and it's a little bit too early for lineups to be released. But the pitching matchup here is very interesting because Kodai Senga is going up against Brandon Woodruff. And, it's been a long road back for Brandon Woodruff. I'm sure you as a Brewers fan definitely knows this, but for you all Mets fans that may not know Brandon Woodruff, a really elite pitcher. I mean, he is probably still, but definitely was a couple of years ago considered a top 7, borderline top 5 pitcher in the league, and he is absolutely dominant. And he's off to a great start, as tonight will be his 6th start of the season so far, off to a 2.22 ERA, if I'm not mistaken. Really good elite mix of pitches, and for an offense that is very much struggling for the New York Mets, I do think that this is a game where the Brewers are clearly looking at an advantage here, and Brandon Woodruff has to be licking his chops, understanding and knowing the struggles of the Mets offense. But so far this season, what have you as a Brewers fan seen from Brandon Woodruff in hopes of getting him back in stride as the Brewers are making this run towards potentially an NL Central crown?
Absolutely. So I think a huge strength of this Brewers squad is the bullpen. I think every single one of the guys we throw in the 6th is fantastic. Neat stat. If we've had a pitcher going into the 6th inning, we are 33 and I think it's 4 on the season. So if we make it to the 6th with Brandon, sorry Mets fans, it's not going to be a pretty game. However, I will say, sadly, we just lost Logan Henderson. Just went to the 15-day IL. He was going to be slated to pitch tomorrow. So it means we're going to have to rely a little bit on Brandon Woodruff to get us later into that game to make sure our relievers, who did pitch a relatively significant number of games past 3 days. So expect Brandon Woodruff to go at least 4 or 5 innings, barring a catastrophe. But I think really the key for the Mets here is just getting runners on base. You guys have the power to knock it in, and I mean, we could start the Juan Soto talk, but I'm not gonna.
Let's not go there just yet.
But you guys have the power. If you get the runners in scoring position, or hell, even just on base, and relying on the bats to get those runs in, instead of trying to keep up with the Brewers, whose bats, yeah, we're not the best slugging team.
Yeah,
hell, we don't even have a top 25 slug. But we do get guys on base and we string them together. So I think a key for the Mets to win here tonight is truly to just rely on the powerful bats and make sure that they have runners on when that time comes.
Well, I think that's a really good core game plan. I know that Mets fans are going to get a kick out of what you just said because the Mets are a bottom 5 team, maybe bottom 3 team in the entire league with hitting, in terms of hitting with runners in scoring position. I think that this is the biggest problem with the Mets lineup, as I just mentioned before, and their struggles is that they do generate the traffic on the bases at a very high clip. At that, but when they get runners in scoring position, the big hit most oftentimes eludes them. There's a lot of runners stranded, especially in scoring position, and that has frustrated us as a Mets fan base collective for the entire season. And it's getting to a point where it's getting a little ridiculous because we're like, okay, April, May, June go by. There has to be some sort of change. This is an anomaly, right? And this is continuing all season long. And there's a lot of talks about the dual hitting coach deployment that we have on the bench and the lack of, I guess, maybe philosophy that they're incorporating, and there's just a lot of speculation about the status of the coaching staff and who's really to blame and who's going to take the accountability for the lack of offensive production for an offense that on paper should be a top 5 offense in the league, but they're just simply not right now. But yeah, I think that's also a good segue to understand this coming series. And we saw it play out last year as well, where the Brewers are such a grinded out team. I mean, they're also one of the youngest teams in terms of average age in baseball. So doing what they're doing right now, especially the total makeover that they have compared to last season. I mean, you lose Devin Williams, you lose Willie Adames, right? Rhys Hoskins hasn't played for most of the year. I mean, who's manning first base right now for you all?
That, sir, is Andrew Vaughn.
Andrew Vaughn, that's right.
Stud.
New addition, Andrew Vaughn from the White Sox, completely turning things around this season.
Love to see it. I think it was like a top 6 prospect, and I think he was drafted 3rd by the White Sox.
Yeah.
Finally showing his worth for the Brewers of all teams, but we'll take it.
And that's a funny story too, because that comes from, I believe, Aaron Savali, who didn't really request a trade, but stated that he wasn't going to go back into the bullpen, wanted to remain a starter. When he voiced his frustrations the very next day, the Brewers front office said, hey, listen, let's go put you to a team where you're going to be a bottom dweller, and maybe even trade at the deadline. I'm not sure if the White Sox ended up doing so or not, but they clearly got a fantastic return in Andrew Vaughn. And yeah, you're right. He was definitely a top 5 pick. I don't remember what slot he was taken in, but a very highly regarded prospect nonetheless that is absolutely killing it. Look at the splits on Baseball Reference. I mean, he's hitting over 370, OPS above 1100 as a Brewer, and just under 100 at bats, I think. So he's having a great season. Is definitely one of those bats that you have to look out for if you're Kodai Senga. And the way that this Brewers team scores, because they are so young, because they are so fiery, feisty. I don't know. They just have a lot of stolen base threats. Speed is part of their game. I mean, Bryce Terang is the biggest culprit. He's a pest on the bases, as I remember last season between these two teams when they met up. Kodai Senga, who has perpetually struggled, especially as of recent with his command and the walk issues, needs to limit the I guess free passes that he gives up. He needs to limit the base runners, and that's something that I have a very big question. It's a big question mark for me going into this game. How is Kodai Senga going to not only hold the Brewers potentially off base, like at a majority clip, but when he does get traffic, which is inevitable on the bases, as he has all season long, he's bounced his way around the traffic. Is he going to be able to do the same and control the running game? And I am very fearful that that is not going to play out tonight, although I hope I'm wrong.
So I'm going to disagree with you on that one. I want the Brewers to just absolutely steal as many bases as they can. But I will say, too, we have some of our hitters, though we're not going to be hitting a ton of dingers, right?
Yeah.
We don't have the power. But what we do have is we have guys that really stand at the plate. Though we're young, we have a lot of guys that are super disciplined. They know a ball when they see one, and they're going to be really, really pesky.
Aggressive.
Yep, absolutely. So, look for the Brewers to continue on with hopefully this mistake-free baseball. It's going to be very interesting. Again, I mean, just look for when Woody gets pulled out, because if it's in the fifth, it's going to be a hell of a game.
Yeah,
if it's after that,
well, I haven't looked at. I saw that this is going to be a 6 start, but I'm curious. Do you know of any sort of pitch count or pitch limit that he's still on, trying to make his way back from? It's a very tough injury to come back from. It's a rotator cuff injury, if I'm not mistaken, in his shoulder. And those shoulder injuries for pitchers, especially of his caliber, are very tricky to come back from, as we've seen historically. But I'm sure they're implementing some sort of, like, maybe not pitch limit, so to speak, but they're not going to push him over 100 pitches in his 6 start back, right?
I imagine he makes it to 70. I wouldn't see much beyond then, hopefully. But yeah, I think they're going to just rely on him just being cool, calm, and collected up on the mound, and hopefully see how far he can get. But I don't think they're going to try and push him too far. And just, again, rely on the depth of that bullpen, even though with the loss of Logan Henderson kind of making it a little more complicated, I think it'll be still an interesting game from the pitching aspect.
Well, I mean, even still, the bullpen is notoriously deep for the Milwaukee Brewers, especially in the back end with Uribe and Trevor McGill, brother of Tyler McGill, 100+ miles per hour for both of them. They are electric in the back end of that bullpen. And again, when you see that type of production and you see that they lost Devin Williams this offseason, it's like this team did not skip a beat. They did not miss a beat whatsoever. A new addition as well as Caleb Durbin. I'm not sure if he's going to be starting for you all.
That's still straight. I still don't know what Pat's doing. I love Andrew Monasterio, blue glove nightmare. Well, it used to be a blue glove. Now he's back to the normal glove, but love Andrew Monasterio. Don't know why Caleb isn't out there. We're not really sure. There's been some rumors on the Brewers side of things. Maybe there was a personality thing. Maybe there was something that happened in practice. We're not really sure what happened with Caleb Durbin, but he's not on the IL, and he's just an active scratch, and we'll see if he makes it out there on the lineup tonight. But we'd love to see another rookie that I do want to talk about, though, Isaac Collins.
Okay.
He has just been an absolute stud. I can't recall his batting average, but man, he has just been absolutely killer. He had a 3-run blast 3 nights ago, and he has just been another stud, another rookie. And I think the beauty of the Brewers is that we just have guys that step up when they're asked to, right? We don't ask much. When they're on the bench, they're not doing much. You're never going to know who this guy is, right?
Who's coming off the bench?
Absolutely. And then you throw them in the lineup, and they're going to be studs.
Yep.
Sal Frelick a few years ago.
Exactly.
Bryce Terang, gold platinum glover twice now. It's going to be you can't make this stuff up for the Brewers, and it's just nice to see kind of that small market team just really work their way up, and that's why we hate the Mets. I mean, whoa! Did I say that out loud?
He said it, not me.
Buying your talent.
He said it, not me. Listen,
Soto, though.
This is really. I don't know about. Listen,
I'm sorry, Mets fans. I'm sorry. I'm a villain right now.
Juan Soto, again, just another guy that is, the overall numbers are not what Juan Soto is supposed to be producing outside of the home runs. The power still is there. He's going to be 30+ home runs. I mean, maybe he could touch 40, but maybe just shy of it. The power is not what anybody is worried about with Juan Soto. It's the situational hitting, the clutch hitting that has eluded this entire team, but also Juan Soto that's supposed to, he got paid as a clutch hitter, as he's been time and time again in his career, and we have not seen that in his first season as a New York Met. So we are still waiting for that, and we continue to hope as the calendar counts down, the season winds down as we're heading, before we know we're going to be in September. Yep. And we're hoping for that to change and turn around. But this is a tale of 2 different organizations. And I guess this is my last question for you as it pertains to, the differences here is that we've seen the Brewers, right? We just talked about the turnover. Adames is not here anymore. They plugged in the shortstop hole, right? Hoskins goes down. They get Andrew Vaughn plugged in that hole. Jackson Churio, is he on the injured list still?
He is. Yeah, he's still got at least another 15 days. He's going to be week to week. I doubt it's going to be 15 days. Probably going to be closer to
hamstring.
Yeah. Yep. He tweaked his hammy running around. He still ended up getting that stolen base or extra base. But I mean, it's a little scary. I mean, I think this is kind of worst case scenarios for the Brewers in the the IL side of things. But I think we're just keep chugging along. And again, just waiting on those guys to come up and make their debuts, essentially. And it's worked out for the most part. But I think something that the Mets can look to capitalize on here is ending that streak for us, right? I think this is an amazing opportunity. If they can at least steal a game or two at home, well, away at the Brewers, I think that can really turn around how your August looks like. And I guess, Chris, I do have a question.
Sure.
So what is worst case and best case scenario heading out of this series? What happens to the Mets after this trip to Milwaukee?
Well, I think the best case scenario is that the Mets take this series, right? I don't expect a sweep by any stretch of the imagination, but I think the whole entire goal of any baseball team, right, regardless of what the name is that they're trying to take each series or as many series as possible, right? Absolutely. So the best case scenario for me is I see the Mets walking out of Milwaukee with 2 wins out of the 3 of this series, right? It's a large ask right now the way things are going, and I would be lying to you after coming off of a sweep of the Guardians that I would just take one, but I need 2. We need 2. And I think that if you realize, and if you do take 2, that you just beat in a series the hottest team in baseball right now, that just seems virtually unstoppable, that is a potential snowball effect that can happen, right? Things can change with a snap of a finger, essentially. Worst case scenario is it gets worse, right? I mean, the losses pile on. You're coming off of 8 of 9 being L's, and you'll make that what, a 11 of 12.
And you're 3.5 games ahead of the wild card.
3.5 games ahead of the wild card, Cincinnati. So miraculously, the Mets still hold a wild card spot, although they've fallen tremendously. The Padres are a game up on them. The Cubs, who are behind you all in the Central, are up 3.5 on us, and then we're 2.5 back from the Phillies. The division is still right there. I mean, 2.5 games with however many games to play as of August 6th, at the time of this recording, is not a big gap by any stretch of imagination, but you're starting to see separation, and that's where I hope the sense of urgency starts falling in line with the Mets. Now, the one thing that I do not like about what I've been hearing from this clubhouse and this organization is what the manager has been saying, and he did say following the Wednesday loss to complete the sweep and almost being no hit by the Guardians, is that it seems like from the manager's mouth, Carlos Mendoza, saying that it does seem like there is a lack of a sense of urgency right now. And if your manager is saying that, of course he has the best tell and the best understanding of the vibe that's in the clubhouse. You do not want to hear that from the manager. You do not want to hear those words or that statement come out of the manager's mouth. And so that's an internal problem with this team that's more so not a question of talent, but more so a question of effort and a question of care. And that is by far a bigger problem within itself than maybe a lack of talent would be. This team has talent. We all know they have talent. On paper, they could be definitely a top 3 team in baseball. The urgency isn't there, and that's just the bottom line. And it just seems like with the lack of fundamentals that we talked about defensively at the top of this episode, that's what it boils down to: a lack of care, effortless. And that's what I'll leave it at. So things can always stay on this path of being bad, and we can keep on falling until the Reds or whoever else catches us from underneath the wild card, or they can decide, hey, enough's enough. I'm tired of these beat writers. No disrespect, I'm tired of opposing fans, talking about us in a negative way, and we can go ahead and take matters into our own hands. And I pray even that this is what's going to happen for the New York Mets in Milwaukee. Final thought here. The Brewers, and not to flip this back on you all, but the Brewers, let's be honest, they've had great seasons. They somehow always get it done. No matter who the manager is, Pat Murphy, Craig Counsell, doesn't matter. No matter what the roster looks like, they're competing for the Central. They're in the playoffs. They have to get over the hump this season. That's something that has eluded them time and time and time again. And last year's no different, with the Mets going into Milwaukee and somehow pulling out a series win in a 3-game set. Is there a sense around this fan base, around the Milwaukee area, that this is the year? Because every year is the year for every fan base, right? The Mets say this, every single season, right? Every fan base says this. Is this the year that they can get over the hump? Is that the vibe, or is this team still kind of maybe overachieving a little bit given the youthful age, and maybe let's say they keep building onto the roster. The owner finally decides to spend some, and they build onto it, and next year could be the building block, so to speak, of an organization that is building something towards the future. Or is it this year? And if something doesn't happen this year, then all hope is lost. Well, what is the general feeling?
Yeah, I think speaking for Milwaukee's fans, I think this team really is the kind of quintessential dream that we've had for the Brewers for the longest time. We can't attract free agents.
Yeah.
Like, being honest, we don't, one, have the payroll, or two, have the city to host it, right? But what we do have is an amazing farm system. And I think what we're seeing now is we are seeing these guys really reach their maturity under arbitration, right? So I think best case scenario for the Brewers is that this is the start. I really do think this is the start of something special, and I think we've seen this play out before. Everyone thinks, and let's look back to the beginning of the season, right? We're like barely just below 500. Mood in the clubhouse is terrible.
The opening series against the Yankees, torpedo bats is eating you alive at Yankee Stadium.
Trust me, I hate those damn things. Anyway, okay, I'm gonna time out there, but what I can say is this: every season, every freaking pundit says the Brewers are out of it. Right now, you want to guess what our odds are to win the World Series?
I couldn't even.
If
guess.
you were to look at Vegas, we are 5th. We were behind the Dodgers. We swept the Dodgers in 6. It doesn't make a whole bunch of sense. But what does make sense is that we are still performing well. We're still performing what makes Brewers baseball great. That is no errors and just stringing together bat after bat at bat. So I think for the Brewers, the key here is not to let any one guy run this lineup like we've seen in years past. Like last year, it was Yelich and Adames really leading us off and making sure that we got the runs strung together. The year prior to that, it was relying on the bullpen and Hader and kind of the emergence of Miguel. We don't really have that issue right now where we are relying on one aspect of this team. So as long as we keep playing team baseball, I think the sky's the limit. But what scares me the most is the fracking wild card round. If we make it the wild card round, I think as Brewers fans, we know it is the end of the world. If we make it and we get a bye, I think we're okay.
Go after that division. The Cubs are right on the tails of the Brewers. It's going to be. I think it's PCA. Don't even get me started on that. Don't get Mets fans started on that. You didn't hear PCA.
I know. I
know.
Here. I
know. Very, very fragile topic, especially with the trade deadline already in the rearview mirror. Yeah, this has been a good episode. Don't forget about the Miz. He's also on the IL, but he's looking to come back soon, right? Phenom. Just incredible talent. Was an all-star. A lot of controversy about the all-star appearance, but an all-star nonetheless.
Nobody wanted to go. This is overblown, guys. Come on.
Yeah. So that's been a lot of talk about some baseball media. So we're gonna have a good time at the game. We hope you all enjoyed this podcast episode, Logan. I thoroughly appreciate that as always. And let's go Mets. Peace.